Yeah.
Gotta get something
Yeah.
more.
She calls me all the time. She sent me emails. All right, we can get started. It is 4:59 or 5 o'clock according to,
Okay. Get 15 seconds.
you got 15 seconds.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock on Germana's watch. Are we ready to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the Cuyahoga County Council regular meeting of Tuesday, July 22nd, 2014. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Calling the roll, Mr. Greenspan. Here. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Brady.
Here.
Mr. Germana.
Here.
Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schron.
Here.
Ms. Conwell. Mr. Jones. Mr. Hairston. Ms. Simon. Here. And Ms. Conley.
Here.
There is a quorum.
Will you please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For a moment of silence, I'd like to recall and keep in our thoughts and prayers the victims of Malaysian Flight 17 and the victims of the Middle East turmoil. All right, moving on to item 5. Is there anyone signed in for public comment?
Yes, Madam Chair. Reverend Butts.
Good evening, everyone. I took the time to document my concerns in case the clock ran out on me, President Conley.
Okay.
And I'll give you a copy of it. The first one of very, very serious importance, which is a very, very hot topic, is the voters' rights that's being addressed globally, not just in Ohio, but in many places. The voting is not just a fundamental right, it's a responsibility. And we need to be reinforcing and implementing this right and this responsibility, including implementing literacy processes, because many people are still voting and unaware of what they're voting for, as well as the repercussions of the decisions made by the voting process. And I would like for you to review that information as you go about presenting your voting rights agenda and see the impact, because people still do not take this voting seriously. People have lived and died for this cause, and it's still not taken seriously. It's not taken as a responsibility, and we get so caught up in rights that we deny our responsibilities. Also, when you do the routine maintenance for the county roadways, please consider the Glenville and the Garden Valley areas, which is in the city of Cleveland, also within the boundaries of Cuyahoga County. They're an atrocity, and they need to be addressed, as well as many other areas within the inner city and some other areas of concern that consideration and care have still been lacking. Money can be taken away from guns, alcohol, drugs, gambling, and be allocated for our streets. I'm very concerned that we just are paying, I believe it's a $46 million contract for a man to bounce a ball and throw it into a hole, which I have nothing against sports because I love sports, but we are not allocating the proper funding to our streets, to women who are incurring violence, to our children who are receiving guns, drugs, and weapons of warfare. And we need to be looking at how our streets are being affected by these monies. Also, and I've separated these concerns from the agenda items in my writing. Right now, There is a wealth transfer taking place globally, and Cuyahoga County, the state of Ohio, and the city of Cleveland are part of that wealth transfer. And in Resolution 2014-185, you can read it for yourself.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will come back for the non-agenda items.
Okay, thank you. What do you want me to give it to? Give it to the clerk. The minutes of the meetings of,
Madam Chair, we still have more.
oh, sorry,
Mr. Marshall?
the man with the beautiful voice.
Thank you. Here goes. I have 3 minutes, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a lot to read. Whereas the officers and membership of the Carl Stokes Brigade have taken up the issue of foreclosures in Cuyahoga County with intense discussion, and whereas we have concluded that foreclosures and by extension, the predatory mortgages initiated fraudulently by the banking industry with devious intent directed primarily toward Black, Hispanic, and poor white homeowners, with collusion of local courts and by directive sheriff's departments are destructive, and whereas thousands of African American homeowners, as a result of negotiating these fraudulent contracts, encouraged by area retailers, realtors, appraisers, mortgage agents, investors, title agents, banks, and other industry professionals have led to home ownership loss by those with advanced knowledge. And whereas taxpayers were forced to bail out banks, Wells Fargo's, PNC, Oakland, Citibank, Chase, Bank of America et al., to the tune of trillions of dollars, even when in fact many banks were financially solvent. And whereas in the process of creating the mechanism for this non-self-correcting mortgage crisis, these communities have jointly suffered because immense losses not only of homes but personal equity, depletion of community tax base and erosion of funding for necessary basic services for communities and schools revenue, urban blight through board-ups, increases in suspicious arson, vandalism, vagrancy, and depletion of the surrounding property tax base. And whereas properties are being sold for pennies on the dollar in an elaborate and deliberate demographic shift ploy to gentrify Black communities and undermine their economic solvency while gerrymandering them. And whereas Black, Hispanic, and poor white owners have suffered full loss of home equity, premature bankruptcy, foreclosure, credit ruin, loss of home, family uprooting and displacement, homelessness, and other egregious consequences as a result of the actions of banking industry leadership and hedge fund investors in an elaborate land grab Ponzi scheme, which these communities are being Detroited, land banked, and Katrina'd. Therefore, be it resolved that the general membership and offices of the Carl Stokes Brigade go on record in calling for an immediate mandatory moratorium on all foreclosures in Cuyahoga County of not less than 5 years. Additionally, we recognize the failure of Obama funds, which were sent down initially for the express purpose of aiding beleaguered homeowners to no avail. We are critical of the abysmal rate of assistance provided by area CDCs, economic development divisions, and alleged mortgage assistance firms, much like the malfeasance associated with the recent scandals where homeowners simply got little or no help due to unrealistic criteria which does not reflect fairness, due process, and equal protection under the laws of the United States government. The organization also calls for mandatory direct assistance to area homeowners to stabilize area housing markets for existing homeowners, demanding that all mortgages of these affected classes be reset to reflect realistic amounts that homeowners can pay to ensure that they all have an opportunity to stay in their homes if it is their desire to do so, and that principal balance and interest rates be reduced significantly to address the malfeasance associated with the housing debacle as a means of providing some degree of punitive and compensatory damages to the affected classes. This document has been sent to all political adjuncts, select universities, media outlets, and the White House, area congressional leaders, Democratic and Republican leadership, United States Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Housing, United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And finally, Mr. Tarter.
You don't have the voice like this guy, so you can.
No, that is a tough act to follow.
Very top act to follow.
Good evening, madam. No, I'm just kidding. I did almost, yeah. No, I don't think I'm going to try it. Madam Chairwoman, County Council members, County Executive Fitzgerald, and guests. My name is Will Tarter. I'm a resident of Broadview Heights. I wanted to comment on an article that I had read concerning the hotel bed tax extension. In the article, it states that the tax is currently being considered for extension for 20 years. Additionally, there's a possibility to be extended for 40 years. I support our hospitality and our tourism industry and the organizations that help to support it. And I also understand the impact that these organizations and the tourism industry have had on our region, on Cleveland, and in downtown in particular. However, I urge this council to not extend this tax for 40 years. Instead, once the questions about spending accountability are answered, that this tax be extended for 20 years. The reason is that we are going to be making a decision that will not just affect the next generation, but will be affecting the generation after that. If anything about Issue 7 or the sin tax taught us, it's the impact that decisions that were made decades ago can have on today, when circumstances, economies, and populations can be vastly different. To put this another way, a current recent college graduate will be eligible for retirement if we extend the tax for 40 years. A current 6th grader will be eligible for AARP by the time a 40-year sin tax extension would expire. We must be mindful of the effect that our decisions that are made today not just have an impact today on our society, but also on future generations to come. I urge this council to support the hospitality industry, but also allow for future generations to have their say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tarter. Anyone else?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, the minutes are in your packet for the July 2nd Committee of the Whole, the July 7th Committee of the Whole, the July 8th Committee of the Whole, and the July 8th regular meeting. If everyone has had an opportunity to review those minutes, we'll entertain a motion to adopt them as circulated.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved by Mr. Germana and seconded by Mr. Schron. Any discussion on those items? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are adopted. For my announcement tonight, I guess this is a historic evening in that as of right now, this will be our last meeting in these particular quarters. Our next meeting will be at our new building. So I've been asking everybody to clean off your desks so that we don't have to move these things. It has been certainly well served, and I think this room has had a lot of very historic moments. And of course, we look forward to our new chambers, and I'm sure that this room will be used for many fine purposes in the future. I'm sure that the judges and the courts and the sheriff are just waiting to make many uses. I just have one little housekeeping item. Somebody left their overcoat. I've been trying to give this overcoat away for the last 6 months. It's a really nice black man's overcoat. I don't think it's somebody that's like really tall. There is an Ohio State there's an Ohio State cap in it, so we suspect the person went to Ohio State. And if we don't get any takers as to who left their overcoat, I guess we knew it wasn't Jack Schron's because it wasn't like Louis Vuitton or something. But
Oh, that hurts. Let me get the arrow out of the back.
But no, we'll be giving it to I guess we'll give it to the homeless shelter or something if we can't find out who it belongs to. So if anybody left an overcoat here, it's in there. Okay, and that concludes my remarks. And thank you, room, for giving us good chambers, and we hope that this room will have many good uses in the future. Mr. Fitzgerald, did you leave an overcoat?
Does it have any money in it?
No,
no, it's
we
not
checked
mine.
that first.
No, I did go to Ohio State, but no, I didn't. It is not mine. I don't have much to say this evening except to just say I got to move into the new county building Monday. I know council's coming next week. I think the 30th. Is that when the council's coming in? But I just want to compliment again. I know we said this at the dedication, but it really is an incredible facility, and it is a great monument to what all of us, everybody, council, administration, staff, everybody have been working on for a long time. It represents what we've been trying to build here, I think, very well. What you notice once you're in the building is the amount of natural light. It really makes a difference. The public art, and I want to compliment you, Council President, because I know you're very much involved in that. But the decision,
And Bonnie and Mr. Gallagher.
and a lot of folks were. But the decision early on that we all made collectively to have public art, which was basically non-existent in the old building. It really makes a difference. Now, not all the employees are there yet, but I walked every floor. There's about, floor 7, 6, and 5 are pretty much occupied. And to talk to the workers that are there and just the difference that it's already made in terms of how they feel about their work environment and the professionalism that it promotes, and just the quality of life that they can experience when they're doing their hard work for the county is just really something special. And I think the public is going to experience that too. The new council chambers look fantastic, and I'm looking forward to everybody getting over there. So I just want to say again to Bonnie and her whole team and everybody that worked on making that a reality. It appears to really be a job well done. Thank you, Madam President.
I'd just like to add about the artwork. All of the artists are local, and
Right.
there's a component of people of handicap, handicapped people who make contributions, and their artwork will be hanging in the building also. So we're very, very proud of that.
And there's it represents a whole spectrum of different artistic styles. So if you're more of a traditionalist, there's some things that are just very kind of typical representational art. There's a good sampling of things that are Cleveland specific. So Cleveland landmarks, you'll see that. Then you'll see some things that's kind of more abstract. We were talking about whether or not we should kind of do an art walk through it and organize something like that, because it's really, I hadn't seen all of the pieces placed, and it's really something special.
Yeah, there's like textures and ceramics
Yeah.
and all different things.
It's
So
really diverse.
The women
yeah.
the consultants, and I don't know their name, they were really excellent in guiding us through this process. So, right.
Absolutely.
All right. Legislation introduced by council, in item 9. A consideration of a resolution of council for first reading adoption under suspension of the rules. We need a motion to suspend Rule 9D and 12A.
President, I move to suspend the rules. Second.
Moved by Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Jemana. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2014-0183, a resolution confirming the county executive's appointment of various individuals to serve on tax incentive review councils for the term August 12, 2014 through September 1, 2015, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective. The individuals' names are printed on the agenda, items 1I through IV.
Move to adopt, but I would like Jim Boyle to come up and
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Shrine. Mr. Boyle.
Thank you. Good evening, members of council. Again, on behalf of Executive Fitzgerald, I appreciate council's consideration for placing this on the agenda for passage on first reading. And I understand how this is not an expected situation, having these things come through. The Tax Incentive Review Council, again, is established by the Ohio Revised Code. They mandate that the hearings take place before September of each year. Every year we come before you with a grouping of 4 individuals to represent the county's interest in assessing these tax incentive aspects that the communities grant. This situation, unfortunately, because we had some turnover with the individuals last year, as well as some other scheduling issues, unfortunately didn't come through as promptly as perhaps they should have, and so that's why we're asking that they be approved on first reading. The individuals, again, as we've done in the last several years, have been a cross-section of the county enterprises, so that all of the individuals have different realms that they can assess the specific tax incentives granted by the municipalities. And again, I appreciate the consideration of having this on for first reading passage. Thank you. And I believe, as requested by the council leadership and staff, all of the individuals have submitted their information in written format for the record.
All right. Any, Ms. Conwell, do you have anything to say? They've appeared before your committee? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Any other questions? All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And congratulations to these individuals. Consideration of a resolution council for first reading referral to committee.
Resolution number 2014-0184, a resolution confirming the county executive's appointment of Cassie Handler to serve on the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County for an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2016, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This will go to Human Resources. Item C, committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading. Now, all of these are the charter amendments, and Ms. Schmatzer will read all of them and without a break. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, I can do that. If you could ask for a motion to suspend Rule 9C, and that will enable me to read these by short title.
Okay, is Mr. Gallagher? Is there-
Madam President, I move to suspend the rule.
All right, moved and seconded to suspend Rule 9C for a short reading. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay. Resolution number 2014-0160, resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to Article 2, Section 2.01 and Article 3, Section 3.03 of the Charter, modifying the residency requirements for the offices of County Executive and County Council. The remainder of these items will all be, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective, and they will all move for third reading for the August 12th agenda. Resolution number 2014-0161, submission to the electors, an amendment to Article 5, Section 5.01, appointment and confirmation of officers, and Section 5.08, sheriff, powers, duties, and qualifications, establishing the term of appointment and process for removal of the sheriff. Resolution number 2014-0162, providing for the submission to the electors, an amendment to Article 12, Section 12.09 of the Charter, accelerating the timeline for the appointment process and commencement of the term of the Charter Review Commission for the year in which the appointment is made. Resolution number 2014-0163, submission to the electors, an amendment enacting Article 14 of the Charter, establishing the Agency of Inspector General. This item was pending committee recommendation, and it did receive such. Resolution number 2014-0165, submission to the electors, an amendment to Article 6, Section 6.01 and 6.02, and Article 11, Section 11.01 of the Charter, changing the composition of various boards and commissions. And resolution number 2014-0166, submission to the electors, an amendment to Article 2, Section 2.04 of the Charter, to provide for the holding of special elections to fill vacancies in the office of the county executive.
All right, thank you. And as she said, all these will be on for August the 12th for third reading. All right, item D, consideration of a resolution of council for third reading adoption.
Resolution number 2014-0159, a resolution amending resolution number 2013-0092, dated October 8, 2013, which authorized a casino revenue fund loan to Playhouse Square District Development Corporation for streetscape improvements, to change the amount not to exceed from $3,684,650 to $4 million, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
All right, moved by Mr. Schron and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Mr. Schron?
The only comment is that we did authorize the $4 million. However, when the funds were not there in the casino revenue at the time, we reduced it down. So the commitment was for the $4 million, and all we're doing is satisfying that commitment that this board had made prior to this.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Item E, consideration of an ordinance of council for first reading and referral to committee.
Ordinance number 2014-0021, an ordinance amending Chapter 701 of the Cuyahoga County Code by adding Sections 701.06 and 701.07 to establish guidelines for the county's investment policy and financial reporting requirements for Cuyahoga County.
This matter will go to finance and budget. consideration of an ordinance for third reading adoption.
Ordinance number 2014-0017, an ordinance enacting Chapter 604 of the Cuyahoga County Code to provide financial assistance to municipalities for the routine maintenance of county roadways and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Moved by Mr. Jemana and seconded by Mr. Miller. Discussion on this?
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Greenspan, and then who else?
Thank you, Madam President. As the primary sponsor of this, I wanted just to provide some insight into what this ordinance does. It does a couple things. Obviously, this is very helpful to our local communities. It has, as the executive a few years ago put forward in waiving put a moratorium in place to waive municipal matches for county road work, this will make that moratorium permanent. That moratorium expired earlier this year. Secondly, what this will do, and which I think is very exciting, it takes the county's puts responsibility back on the county to maintain its own roads, and we will reimburse communities for the material costs for routine road maintenance, subject to obviously the funding being available, which will be determined by the Director of Public Works, and the ratings of the roads submitted by our municipalities during that year. And finally, what it does for those communities that are actually in financial distress, as deemed by the Auditor of State, and Mr. Jones was instrumental in this amendment, moving this into this ordinance. If those communities, and we have 3 right now that are in financial distress, apply and their roads are so deemed to be meet the requirements for that year, the county will pay 100% of labor and material to maintain those roads. So this provides relief to our communities. I appreciate those who have sponsored it, and I appreciate the chairman of the committee. This has actually been in committee in some form or another for over 2 years, so I appreciate the opportunity to bring it out, and I bring it before you and request your passage.
And Mr. Hairston?
I'm sure I'd just like to be added to the,
And Jones, did you?
and Madam President, and congratulations to Councilman Greenspan on bringing this forward. It has gone through my Public Works Committee. I'm surprised my name is not on here as a sponsor. I don't know if that's oversight or what, but no, it's my fault. Please add my name to this legislation. But I do support this wholeheartedly.
All right, thank you. Anything further? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, legislation by the executive. A, consideration of resolutions for first reading adoption and suspension of the rules. These items are time-specific, and we need to suspend Rule 9D and 12A.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rules.
Gallagher and seconded by Mr. Jemana. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2014-0185, a resolution amending the 2014-2015 biennial operating budget for 2014 by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources, for appropriation transfers between budget accounts, and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
To adopt.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Jemana. Mr. Miller.
Madam President, my colleagues, this fiscal resolution is routine except that there are 3 large capital projects to be funded from future debt issuance. $25 million from the pedestrian and bicycle bridge from the malls to the Science Center, $4.3 million for the call manager system, and $3.15 million for repairs to the Edna Hunter building. I recognize the importance of each of these projects, but we are building a large inventory of appropriations to be funded from future debt issuance, and we need to get a better handle on what our priorities are. Therefore, I move to amend these items out of the resolution and ask Council President Conley to refer them to Finance and Budget for discussion at our August 4th meeting of that committee.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Greenspan to amend the item. Is there any discussion on the amendment? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Then we'll move forward with the amended items. And I think you all at your places should see the specific items that were amended out. And then these items can we take them separately and we'll refer them to the Finance Committee? All right. Okay. So then we need to move forward on the item as amended. Any other discussion on the other items as amended? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, so the amended item will move forward, or is adopted. Madam Clerk, our next item.
Resolution number 2014-0186, a resolution making an award on requisition number 30795 to the Shelley Company in the amount not to exceed $2,863,420.24 for repair and resurfacing of Madison Avenue from Riverside Drive to West 117th Street in the city of Lakewood, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, authorizing the county engineer on behalf of the county executive to make an application for allocation from county motor vehicle $7.50 license tax funds in the amount of $286,342.02 to fund said contract and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
I don't know who said it first, Mr. Miller and then Mr. Germana seconded.
Madam President. My colleagues, Lakewood is very desirous of getting this Madison Avenue resurfacing project well under construction this year. We held an informal hearing in considerable detail last week at Public Works Committee. The expedited schedule is at my request. I want to publicly thank Council President Conley, Councilman Jones, Director Tewan, and Clerk Schmatzer for making this possible and ask for the support of my colleagues on behalf of my district. And I would also like to recognize the presence of Lakewood Mayor Summers here on behalf of the project. Thank you.
Would the mayor like to say a few words?
Thank you very much. Members of council, I appreciate County Executive Fitzgerald. This is an important element of our economic development strategy. Thank you. Actually, going back as long as a decade on Detroit Avenue, including the period when County Executive Fitzgerald was mayor of Lakewood, about $12 million of public money was expended, and that ended up leveraging and experiencing almost $60 million of private investment. Our expectation on Madison Avenue is not quite as expansive as that, but we have a reasonable expectation that this $2.8 million project plus about another $1 million of other funds will leverage at least a matching amount of private investment. In fact, it already has. $1.2 million of a brew pub in a vacant church has been committed to in one of our more interesting neighborhoods, Birdtown. And we have other pledges as well. So the demonstration of the commitment of this public funds by starting this fall will send a big signal that this project is in fact underway. It's been a subject of conversation for 3 years in Lakewood. And many, of course, who might be inclined to say, well, we'll see it when it happens. Well, we want it to happen. The project is designed to be implemented in 4 phases. So our plan would be that we would be able to implement the first of the 1/4 of the project, 25%, starting on the west side of Riverside, moving east. We've actually got a major water main replacement on the east side, moving west. If we can get this first phase done this year, that will allow us to continue to affirm to the business investors and business owners and others who may choose to come here that this fact is going to be the new Madison Avenue. We refer to it as Madison on the Move, and we expect to be able to make it as vibrant as any city in the region. It is a county road. It does leverage $1 million of federal transportation money, $1 million of Ohio Public Works money, roughly $300,000 of county money, and roughly $500,000 of local money. So it's a true partnership that's all being brought to bear, and getting started sooner rather than later is a big help to us. So I appreciate your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, any questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading. So the clerk will read those, and they'll be on for third reading on August the 12th.
Resolution number 2014-0141, a resolution providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to add Article 14 to the Cuyahoga County Charter to provide that the right to vote is a fundamental right in the county, and authorize the county to take action to protect and promote the right to vote, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective. This item was listed as pending committee recommendation, and it did receive that recommendation. Resolution number 2014-0175, a resolution making an award on requisition number 28400 to Protech Systems Group Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $1 million for maintenance, upgrades, and support services for the supervisory control and data acquisition system for the period August 1, 2014 through July 31, 2019, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
No, these are second reading.
Second reading.
Oh,
All right, yeah, these are second reading, they'll be on, you can do that next. C, committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading under suspension of the rules. We need a motion to suspend Rule 9D. These have been the committees, and we don't need, we'd like to waive the third reading.
Madam President, I move to suspend the rule.
Mr. Gallagher, and seconded by Mr. Jabana to suspend Rule 9D. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The rule is suspended.
Resolution number 2014-0174, a resolution making an award on requisition number 27928 to Wiss Janney Elsner Associates Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $659,300 for consultant engineering design services for Huntington Park garage repairs, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
move to adopt.
Moved by Mr. Jones and seconded by Mr. Jemana. Any discussion on Mr. Jones?
Chair, can I just ask Director Tewan to present, not tonight, but could you send how many Huntington Park garage repairs we've had so far? Could you send that information? Thank you.
Bonnie, since you're halfway here, why don't you come in? Give us a brief comment on this piece of legislation.
The resolution you have in front of you is for design work to do rehab work for the Huntington Park Garage. We publicly advertised for an RFQ. We scored the qualifications packages. West Cheney was the highest scoring. We negotiated with them in regard to the scope of work and the fee for the work, and that's what you have in front of you today. I would ask for your approval.
Is he satisfied with that?
You will still send us
Yes.
the total repairs we've done so far on the garage. That's what I'm interested in. Thank you.
It's in bad shape, and we're supposed to be using it for the hotel parking, so I continue to voice my concerns.
And when I arrived here 3 years ago, I've identified that, and one of the first things we did was a full analysis of the Huntington Park Garage, and that led to this package, putting a package together for detailed design for rehab.
Okay.
And in light of these legitimate concerns, I still recommend it for approval.
Questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Resolution number 2014-0179, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Department of Workforce Development in the amount not to exceed $1,442,205 for operational support of one-stop centers and career centers, applicant job readiness program, job readiness job search program for able-bodied adults without dependents, and occupational skills training program individual training accounts for the period July 1, 2014 through June 30, 2015, authorizing the county executive to execute the agreement and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Brady and seconded by Mr. Schron. Did you want to be heard, Mr. Brady?
Yes, just that this 179 is the workforce development part of this is responsible for the implementing of and training and educational programs to support labor force development and self-sufficiency Its funding is 69% temporary assistance for needy families, TANF, and 31% is from the Food Assistance Employment Training, and I ask the council for its support.
Thank you. Anything further? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Resolution number 2014-0180, a resolution making an award on requisition number 30667 to AmeriCab Transportation Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $3,600,000 for transportation services for the period September 1, 2014 through August 31, 2016, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Brady and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Mr. Brady?
Yes, this is the second time since we've been here that we've entered into this transportation agreement. This is to provide transportation for Medicaid families, for non-emergency ambulatory clients who are being treated for dialysis, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy, among other things. All clients must be Medicaid eligible to receive these services, and it is 100% funded through federal Medicaid dollars.
All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Resolution number 2014-0181, a resolution authorizing amendments to an agreement and contracts with various providers for universal pre-kindergarten services for the Invest in Children program for various time periods, authorizing the county executive to execute the amendments and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the time periods, the contracts, the providers, and the amounts not to exceed as printed on the agenda, items 4I through triple I.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Simon and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Did you want to be heard on this, Ms. Simon?
Just briefly, Madam President, this is the Universal Pre-K program that the resolution addresses the necessity to extend the contract time, and also as well as to change the scope of services on a few contracts to accommodate the needs of the students and the program. And this is the Health and Human Service money, and ask for your support.
Please add my name.
Add Ms. Conwell's name, please. All right, any questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations to all these programs. All right, moving on to item D, consideration of resolutions for third reading adoption.
Resolution number 2014-0154, a resolution adopting the 2014 Economic Development Plan in accordance with Section 7.05 of the Cuyahoga County Charter and Section 801.01 of the Cuyahoga County Code, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Schron, and I heard Miller and Conwell, so Miller is louder. All right. Seconded by Mr. Miller. Did you want to be heard, Mr. Schron, or?
Yes, and actually, if you wouldn't mind putting my name, make sure it's on that one also, I appreciate it. But this is a reflection of the charter requirement that we would go forward with an economic development plan. There is a desire to take this plan to a much more aggressive and strategic method going forward, and so we're going to be doing that into the 2015 plan. It's been the commitment from Mr. Kelly on that will be part of where he's going with as he takes us forward into the next year. So thank you very much. Looking forward to next year. We've got our sea legs underneath us, and we're ready to move on to a much more aggressive strategic planning process.
All right, any other comments?
Madam Chair? As the Vice Chair of Councilman Schron's Economic Development Committee, as we've dealt with this five-year economic plan, it is really in the recent year impressed upon me the importance of health and human services and economic development in that intersection. And part of one of the planks in the five-year plan is collaboration between these two departments. I say that in light of the fact that we have been dealing with 29,000 individuals on the food stamp rolls who are able-bodied individuals and potentially taken off of those rolls. And we do much to help them as far as workforce development, connecting them to job opportunities. But that area of entrepreneurship is one that is a lacking piece. And over the next year and in the coming years, I certainly look to talk with both departments around efforts and opportunities to engage this community in this way to fulfill our charter of the economic well-being of every resident of Cuyahoga County. So again, I've said this in committee, but these are conversations I look forward to having in the coming months and years.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, next item.
Resolution number 2014-0155, a resolution adopting various changes to the Cuyahoga County non-bargaining classification plan and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Conwell and seconded by Mr. Sharon. Ms. Conwell?
Madam Chair, these non-bargaining classification plan, I asked for approval. They are for the medical examiner's office, and I do believe that they are the last non-bargaining classification plans that we will have to deal with. But there may be a few, but I believe this was the last office. So I asked for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Conwell. Anything else? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Resolution number 2014-0156, a resolution authorizing an amendment to contract number CE 1200-077 with Wellness IQ Incorporated for the Vitality Wellness Program for county employees for the period January 1, 2012 through December 31, 2014, to extend the time period to December 31, 2017, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $1,579,650, authorizing the county executive to execute the amendment and all other documents consistent with this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Moved by Ms. Conwell and seconded by Mr. Germana.
Yes, Madam Chair, this particular resolution is just an extension of the Vitality Program. The presentation in the HRAE committee was very informative, and I believe out of all the employees that we have, it was less than 100, and I could be wrong, of employees that do not participate. So, well taken program, and ask the committee to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Conwell. Anything further? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next item.
Resolution number 2014-0170, a resolution making an award on requisition number 27440 to One Community in the amount not to exceed $240,000 for internet service provider and fiber maintenance services for the period June 1, 2014 through December 31, 2018, authorizing the county executive to execute the contract and all other documents consistent with said award and this resolution, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Sharon and seconded by Mr. Miller. Is anyone want to be heard on this? Is from the technology department? I don't know.
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
This contract was heard in Finance and Budget and unanimously approved to provide internet service and fiber maintenance through the end of 2018. And I ask for your support.
All right, any other questions? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, item E, committee reports and consideration of ordinance for second reading.
Ordinance number 2014-0019, an ordinance enacting Chapter 716 of the Cuyahoga County Code to establish procedures for setting the fee structure for Sheriff's Department background check services, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
And this matter will be on for third reading for August 12th.
Madam Chair, on the next item, ordinance number 2014-0020, this item was pending committee recommendation, and it did receive that recommendation. However, the title has changed, and so I will read that corrected title into the record. An ordinance enacting Chapter 717 of the Cuyahoga County Code to authorize extension of the capital improvement bed tax and to authorize the use of said proceeds in accordance with agreement with the mayor of the city of Cleveland and Positively Cleveland, as approved by a majority of local mayors, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
I move to amend, and as we discussed yesterday, this amendment extends the bed tax for the full 40 years allowed by the legislature rather than 20. If we could come back for review later, I would be all for it. But the legislature only gave us one shot at extension. We want to control our own destiny and not depend on the legislature. With new facilities, the National Convention, LeBron returning, and perceptions about Cleveland improving, we're finally becoming a strong visitor destination, which creates jobs and a stronger economy. I'm mindful of what Mr. Tarter said, but the history of Cuyahoga County's economy is hot and cold. The 40-year extension provides sustainable funding to make Cuyahoga County a great place to visit and bring outside dollars into our community. Very little of the tax is paid by our own residents, and the industry supports it when used for this purpose. Passage also guarantees that Cuyahoga County services and neighborhood projects will not have to compete with visitor attraction for other scarce county dollars. For long-term sustainable job growth and tourism attraction, I ask for your support of the amendment.
Second.
All right, any discussion on this item?
Madam Chair, this ordinance probably should be in the dictionary under sustainability, should be a picture of this ordinance. I understand what Mr. Tarter was talking about, 40 years from now, I probably won't be here, but I'm not going to be paying any of this bed tax nor any of my residents. This tax is paid by visitors. And the reason it's sustainable is visitors are going to be paying this hotel tax that's going to promote more visitors. So it isn't like if this was a tax on our citizens, I'd want to have the shortest possible time. But this is on visitors, and it's going to be sustainable. We spent all this money in investments in hotels, the convention center, and so on and so forth. So why would we not want to take advantage of the longest period allowed by law? So I wholeheartedly second this.
All right, any other
Madam
discussion?
Chairperson.
Mr. Brady? And then
When,
Mr. Shaw?
when I, after the executive introduced this bill and I co-sponsored it, I had indicated a personal preference for 20 years. We had a good discussion the other day, and I am not opposed to extending this to 40 years. I was persuaded by comments that were made by my colleagues at the time of that meeting that there's no good reason not to extend it, and there's a good reason to extend it, and that's because people will have to go back to the legislature and we'll have to start over. But I think Mr. Councilman Germain has really put it most succinctly. These are taxes we're bringing in from other people, and so I think given all the improvements and money that we've been plowing into everything, including the sports arenas and everything that's been mentioned so far, that I'm willing to change my mind and support the tax for twice as much time as the Councilman Miller has suggested.
All right, Ms. Simon?
Question about the amendment and extending the time. Would we be able to change where the money goes? I mean, those are two separate issues for me. I mean, if we extend it to the 40 years, are we locked into this agreement for the next 40 years, which I don't agree with? Because things might change demographically and future of where this money should be invested.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
My opinion is that we probably could not do so unilaterally, but that we could probably do so by getting with the partners that we're partnering with, and I would certainly rather have things under local control, and so I think it would need to be done in collaboration with our partners.
Yeah, the nature of the tax is a permissive tax. It's just the requirement is it has to be used for capital improvements. So that you'll never be able to change. We've tried to draft the agreement with the mayor of the city of Cleveland to be broad enough to allow for a whole panoply of uses, so that we don't corner ourselves right now in a very specific, direction. And I think the idea was that there would be a subsequent agreement that would be part of the negotiations on the agreement to give us the flexibility to be able to do that in the future. But the one thing that you wouldn't be able to deviate from is the capital improvement component, because that's in the revised code. There's nothing we can do about that.
Madam President, is the cooperative agreements going to mirror the extension we would give necessarily? So if we say 40 years, that the cooperative agreement will have to reflect what we extend to?
And I think what it's going to say is it's going to say, for as long as the county keeps the tax on the books, that's what the use is, giving us the flexibility, and gently giving us the ability, if we wanted to repeal it in the future, to be able to repeal it.
I can't support it then. I mean, maybe the mayors will have a different destination or a different idea in 20 years. So this locks this in for 40, the agreement they reached today.
But you have the ability to repeal the tax altogether. I mean, you have the ability to completely get rid of it if its use goes away. Because of the nature of the tax being a permissive tax, you have the right to repeal it. What we're trying to do is not contractually obligate ourselves to the 40 years, which we're putting that flexibility in the contract itself to be able to change course down the road.
Mr. Jones, do you want to be heard?
When we discussed this in committee, there were many who were passionate for the 40 years. I was actually on the fence at the time, but after the discussion in committee, I am in support of the 40 years. I thought about it. I said, I've never stayed in a hotel here in Cleveland. I've stayed in hotels in Columbus, in Cincinnati, but actually never one here in my home city. So I imagine those from Columbus have spent time here in our hotels. So I don't want to allow Columbus to have the say in 40 years about the extension of the tax on Columbus residents. So I support it for that reason. But it is a concern as well, concern about funding going to Positively Cleveland for 40 years. My feeling there is that I would rather deal with the changes if changes are necessary and the demographics change, and I would again rather deal with it locally than as opposed to, again, having that struggle of needing this tax and having to depend on Columbus to do it. So I do support this legislation, for this amendment for 40 years.
All right, any other discussion on the amendment? Mr. Shrine?
Yeah, as the law director said, this is a permissive, and as a result, we have we're going to have one shot and one shot only to extend it for the 40 years. If we choose to say we do not want to continue with it at year 17, that's certainly within the scope of what we could do and come back, and anybody could do that if we choose to eliminate that and still go to the legislature simultaneously in the hopes that they would change the way they look at this so that it could be done at the same time. The converse, though, is if a favorable legislature was not down there in Columbus, you might never be able to reinstitute this. So I think that's the only reason I'm supporting it, and on the same basis that, though we call it Positively Cleveland, but I think if everybody can just put it in their mindset that this is the Convention and Visitors Bureau that has literally been around since we've had a convention center. The one we just tore down was probably, 65 years old. So we've had a commitment to conventions and downtown development for what we hope we just built was another 50 or 60-year building out there.
All right, if there's any other questions, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll on the amendment?
Calling the roll on the amendment. Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller? Yes. Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hairston?
Yes.
Ms. Simon? Yes. Ms. Conley? Yes. Motion carries.
Chairperson?
Yes.
I'd just like to say that between Councilman Miller and myself, we paid so much bad taxes in Columbus over so many years that, we've paid our share. We've done it. We want some of it coming back.
Yeah, you guys broke my arm on this one. I was more inclined to go with 20, but okay. All right, it passes. Final item, item F, consideration of an ordinance for third reading adoption. Oh, and that item then, I'm sorry, that item will go forward as amended for third reading on August the 12th. So it's no other action as other than that. Okay.
Ordinance number 2014-0018, an ordinance enacting Chapter 715 of the Cuyahoga County Code to establish a social impact financing fund for the purpose of funding contracts to improve outcomes and lower costs for contracted government services in Cuyahoga County, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Miller and seconded by Mr. Germana. This is the program entitled Pay for Success. We've had a lot of discussion. Did anyone want to add anything on it?
Madam President, to explain this a little bit to the general public, I would first say that I appreciated the opportunity to sponsor this significant legislation with Executive Fitzgerald. The ordinance provides a fund within county government through which Pay for Success projects will flow. Pay for Success is an innovative health and human services funding model. Ours would be only the 5th project in the country and the first county project. The principle behind Pay for Success is that private investors in the philanthropic community are asked to pay upfront for the cost of services which are expected to result in cost savings, and to agree to be repaid with a modest return on investment only if the expected savings are achieved. Pay for Success projects are also done as controlled scientific studies, so this project will provide valid research information on the effectiveness of the services provided. In the Cuyahoga County Pay for Success project, Frontline Services will provide an enhanced level of services to homeless women with children in foster care. Using critical time intervention and a full family approach, with housing services in cooperation from CMHA and Eden, our goal is to reduce foster care days for these families by at least 25%, providing faster reunification, stronger families, and substantial cost savings. This ordinance is only the first step of the process. Passage will give the administration the opportunity to negotiate a pay-for-success contract with potential investors and bring it back to us, hopefully in the early fall. Many have contributed to this project. I particularly congratulate Dave Merriman, who has made this a labor of love for 3 years and has overcome much to get us this far. I take an experimental approach to government and look forward to seeing what this brings, and ask for the support of my colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other comments? All right, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Calling the roll, Mr. Greenspan. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
No.
Mr. Schron?
No.
Ms. Conwell? Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Hairston?
Yes.
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Ms. Conley?
No. The ayes have it. All right, we have an executive session, so I just want to go through the last item. The executive session will be very quick. Any miscellaneous committee reports?
Madam Chair, I'd like to just point out on that last ordinance, just for the record, that you needed 8 votes to make it immediately effective, so therefore it is not.
Okay, so it will go into effect in 30 days?
That's correct. And the language already reads, if it gets 8 votes, it's immediately effective. If it doesn't, it goes into effect in
Okay,
accordance
all
with
right.
law, so that's not an issue.
Just checking, Madam Chair, that there's no more committee meetings that'll be held in this chambers. Is this?
No, there will be no more committee meetings in this chambers, or, so that's why I'm asking everybody to clean everything up. Okay. Yes, our new committee meetings will all be in our new building. And when is our first committee meeting, Ms. Schmatzer?
That would be on August 4th at 1 o'clock, and that will be the Finance and Budgeting Committee, and it will be held
Oh,
in...
come on, don't give that to Miller. Come on, that's not
Sorry.
fair.
It will be in Council Committee Room A.
It's not fair that Miller gets the first committee.
Well, if it helps any, the Board of Control and Contracts and Purchasing Board will be meeting on that day earlier in the day.
Okay, you rolled
first.
7, Medill. Okay, any other miscellaneous committee reports?
Yeah, Gene Smartzer, we've just, HRAE committee has just decided we'll meet on August 19th.
Anything else?
Chair of the Public Works.
You went.
Just out of habit, I have nothing.
Any other miscellaneous committee report, any miscellaneous business? All right, any public comment unrelated to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Miss Reverend Pinckney Butts.
Sorry, Reverend Pinckney.
I come before you now with the bitter and the sweet. And first of all, before I go any further, I'd like to thank each of you who have been praying for me, and not only praying, but putting wings on your prayers for my concerns that I've brought before you, my personal ones as well as my professional ones. I'm going to bring the bitter first because I want to close on a sweet note. I consist of many races and many ethnic origins. So therefore, there is no place in my life for racism because I have too many in me, first of all, and secondly, it's insignificant and it's ridiculous. Racism is stupid to me. I also face the facts. When they finish, I'll finish because they're talking.
Oh, go ahead.
I also face the fact that even today, the woman still does not have a voice in society and in humanity as we should. But the racial matter that I'd like to bring to your attention is, I was reading an article online where a case manager who works for the county referred to people who are brown skinned as niggers who need to be hung high. I would like for you all to look at this. Her name is Lily Miller. And Prosecutor Timothy McGinty, I was informed, stated that she was exercising her freedom of speech. And I'm wondering if a person who's brown skinned saw her and said that what she is, she needs to be beat up and thrown off a train, if that would be exercising freedom of speech. It's time out for this. It's time out for condemning people because of the color of their skin and making decisions to destroy people's families because of the color of their skin. And I ask you, Council President Conley, to please investigate this, investigate these records in the prosecutor's office, in the sheriff's departments, in the courts, and these other entities that you're allocating funding to that refer to people as niggers and other name-calling factors that are very serious and are hate crimes. I object to the church not speaking about it and not stepping up to the plate in reference to it, as well as these other entities and resources. It's time out for these hate crimes because of the color of our skin. It's time out for this foolishness where we're changing finances in exchange to preparing our city, our state, and our nation for more war, not only because of the color of our skin, but because of our lack of integrity. It's time to walk in integrity. The clock has ticked, my time has run out, and I am doing some things as a preacher because I am a preacher of the gospel of peace.
All right, thank you.
And I will be glad to let you know what I am doing if you will take me into consideration all of the matters that I have brought before you.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else before we go into executive session? All meetings of the Cuyahoga County Council are open to the public under the Ohio Meetings Law. Under the law, council may go into executive session during a meeting for specifically authorized purposes. During executive session, council confers outside the hearing of the public. Council may not make any decisions about any matters in executive session. All decisions are made in public. This afternoon, council will go into executive session regarding pending legislation. During this time, our live stream will be down, and we will ask all those not specifically needed for executive session to leave council chambers. Anyone may re-enter as the session has ended. Is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation? Moved by Mr. Gallagher and seconded by Ms. Conwell. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Moving to executive session, Mr. Greenspan? Yes. Mr. Miller? Yes. Mr. Brady? Yes. Mr. Germana? Yes. Mr. Gallagher? Yep. Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Ms. Conwell? Yes. Mr. Jones? Yes. Mr. Hairston? Yes. Ms. Simon? Yes. And Ms. Conley?
Yes.
So moved.
Morales, did you leave a coat in our, I'm trying to find, I gotta find the owner of this coat. Did you leave a coat?
He went to Michigan.
Michigan, oh, he ain't got no Ohio State cap, no. Go ahead. We gotta.
No, we can't.